What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wellness Hustle podcast, where wellness meets ambition. If you're on the grind towards achieving your goal and you like to be grounded in your emotional, physical, and mental health, then you're in the right place. I engage in meaningful conversations with entrepreneurs, wellness experts, creatives, and everyday individuals who are navigating their journey towards their goals. From mindfulness to financial growth, from purpose to productivity, we cover it all. New episodes drop weekly on our YouTube channel, packed with raw conversations, real tips, and that extra push to keep you thriving and not just surviving. So if you're about that hustle and that healing, hit the subscribe button, drop a comment, join the community, and let's level up together. The Wellness Hustle podcast. It's not just a podcast, it's a movement. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wellness Hustle podcast. This is your host, Dr. Neville Campbell, and today we have some extremely exciting guests. I've been waiting to talk to these guests for the longest, to tell their story, to share their story, to share their journey, to share the why behind who they are today. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome Dr. Barbara Dominguez and her husband, Jonathan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Campbell, for having us.
Absolutely. So I really am excited about this conversation. So we met, how long ago did we meet?
Probably, I would say a good 8 months ago to about a year ago, maybe or so.
Absolutely. And I tell you, so when I met Doc, the energy is what drew me to her. I tell you, there's something about energy, right? Yeah. And it never lies, right? When people have good energy, when they have drive, it is almost, it radiates and it's infectious. Right. It draws people in. So I saw her, I was like, there's something about her. And when I dove into her story, that's when I began to understand the who behind and the why behind who she is today. Doc, we're going to get a little deep today. Okay. If that's okay with you.
Of course.
Jonathan, we're going to get a little deep. I promise you we will not stay deep. Right. But we'll get there.
I trust you.
Thank you. So I just want to tell the audience, tell the viewers about your practice, a little bit about your practice. I mean, of course, a female, a chiropractor who has built quite a successful practice here in what I would say, a male-dominated market.
Right.
What are some of the things that you say that gave you, the ability to do this?
I think it comes from a background. I'm a first generation. I came from immigrant parents, and I've had to see my parents come at a later age to the States, and they had to really grind their way to make sure that, they took care of me and my siblings. I knew very, very early on that I didn't want to have that lifestyle. I knew that I was going to be the one that was going to, help propose the next generations moving forward. And I said, you know what? I love helping people. I want to be a doctor. And I knew that since I was 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of started paving my path by becoming an EMT. Mm-hmm. That's how I put myself through school. I think I told you that once before. I used to work like 60 hours a week and go to school. And I still graduated with a pre-med degree in 3.5 years. When it was time to go to med school, though, however, I was like, man, how am I going to work 60 hours a week and still go to med school? I was like, you know what?
Impossible.
Very hard. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to chiropractic school because I like the whole wellness aspect of it. I never wanted to be a doctor that just kind of pushed medicine. I wanted to be an overall doctor where I made a complete difference in people's lives. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be a chiropractor. And then later on, when I get ahead in life a little bit more, I'll go back to med school. Well, life took over, I kind of started practicing. Right. I had four kids later on in life.
Of course.
And then, you just kind of get wrapped in. But the beauty in all of that is that I was able to integrate everything that I learned medically into the chiropractic world as well. It was something that nobody was really doing in Atlanta. And I think that really put my foot forward into this industry, being that I've been in this industry now for the last 23 years.
Wow, that's impressive. 23 years in this
23
industry.
years in this industry.
Folks, if you haven't dove into this practice and seeing how many locations are you at now?
Nine currently.
9 locations currently. How many staff members are you working with?
We're
at this point?
about the 50th mark now.
My goodness. So she's encroaching on, moving from a small business to a larger business right now.
Right.
But I want to talk a little bit about what you said earlier, right? Working 60 hours a week.
Right.
Immigrant parents. There seems to be something special about children of immigrants and their drive to achieve, their drive to accomplish, their push, their grit, their stick-to-itiveness, not giving up. Jonathan, you're a child of immigrant as well, right?
Yeah, actually, I born in a different country.
You're born in a different
Yeah,
country.
I born in a different country. I moved in when I was 16 years old. So it was hard.
Tell me about your path and
Yeah.
sort of, what led you to this point?
I think, first coming here to this country with my mom and my brother, with nothing.
Yes.
Then my background from my dad was Jewish. So my dad always that's what conversation we were having before, telling me things like, all the time, like, hey, you need to work and do this. You need to bring your own things. You need to build your own stuff. So that's something that, I was so young, but it stick with me. Some things I realized later in life, probably 10 years, 5 years later, I was like, oh, okay. I realized what my dad told me when I was 9 years old, But I think that's important because that's gonna help you try achieve something later at least, or some things it's not gonna kick in at 15, 18, or 20
Right.
years old, So I think that's where it helps me. In the
There
future.
seems to be this value set that I believe that's installed in these immigrant children
Right.
Yeah.
by the parents. And the value set, I believe the foundation is hard work,
Hard work.
Yeah. That's
right.
education, integrity,
That's right.
being honest,
That's right.
working hard for what you have.
Yeah.
And I think in some strange way we have lost, well, not we, but the current society has lost those value sets.
Yeah.
We were talking briefly about children and rearing kids, and my wife and I are also in business together,
Right.
like you guys, and we'll talk about that too.
Right.
But we have children, and as we're reflecting on our children and how they're growing up now and the influences that they have, when I was growing up, I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go to the farm and to go fetch water and walking 5 miles to school and all these things before 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And so, and I thought this was just normal. So fast forward in life, when challenges and things were difficult, I felt like this was a breeze compared to what I had to do.
Right.
Because I was prepared.
Yeah.
That's
And I
right.
think the challenges, the children these days, they're not prepared for hardship.
Right.
Yeah.
I
They're not
agree
prepared
with
for
that.
challenges.
Yeah.
I
We're
agree
actually-
with
I
that.
think
And
we were talking about it a couple of
yeah,
days ago. I think.
we talk about this a lot with our kids, right? Now, fast forward, they're a little bit older.
Yeah.
So they're coming to their senses a
Yes,
little bit more,
yes.
right? And it was a constant struggle that we talked about it all the time and with certain colleagues as well, because, we had that hustle in us, but how do we make sure that the second generation gets that hustle when we've, as parents, always want to give them everything that we didn't have, right? We want to make their path a little bit easier by providing certain tools to make it a little bit easier for them. However, as a fast forward throughout life, and now I currently have these conversations with my kids, it's actually interesting to see that they tell me, Mom, you don't realize the stress that we have in our lives just to fulfill and all that pressure that we have just to fill or be just a little fraction of what you are.
Really?
And so
Wow.
it kind of shed some light, right? Because
Right.
that was a constant struggle as they were getting younger, because you're like, oh my God, these kids are just not doing anything,
Right.
and things
Right.
like that. But as you get older, I think that just that pressure alone actually is almost at the same range of the hustle that we had to bring during our generation.
That's
So I think it kind of comes
Interesting
around.
They
perspective.
don't want to be
Right.
the failure,
Yeah.
the failure in the family.
Yeah.
And they
Right.
want to make sure they build something but on their own as well.
That's right. Our kids have told us, you know what? I don't want it easy. I don't want you to give me something,
Right.
Mom. I want to make a name for myself.
But that's good though.
And that's great.
That's good. You've instilled that in them.
Right.
Right. Not to be a recipient, but to go out, hustle, and get and create and
Right.
build.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I think, despite the environment, we still have a role to play.
Right.
Right. It's, yes, the environmental influences are so many around them, but as parents who've been through sort of a different path, I think we still have an obligation.
Yeah.
To guide them, to show them, okay, though you're not going to go through the same struggles, understand that the lessons that I've learned, you can use different things to teach them the same lessons.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Now,
agree.
looking back at sort of, now your children are older, right?
Right.
Were there any mistakes that you think you've made as a parent? What would you have done differently? If you look at your eldest right now,
Yeah.
your firstborn,
Right.
and you probably have had, you probably have a lot of memories with the firstborn.
Right.
Working, you were doing this, you were doing that, and they were the first to do certain things.
Right.
But certainly the path hasn't been perfect.
Yeah.
What could you have done differently, you think, if you had to reflect at this point?
I think one mistake that we make as a parents, especially with the first kid, is that you wanna protect the kid so much instead of that's something that we've been learning and we've been doing more. Yeah, we always say it's two ways to learn out of mistakes, right? Either you go straight, you hit yourself through the wall, and then hey, you learn, hey, don't do that again. Or ones that should listen to somebody else tell you and following the advice, right? So I think that's one thing definitely that I will change. Just have more conversations and don't just hold in that case, our kids so much and want them to make some healthy mistakes. Just go there. I know this is not the right thing, but they're gonna learn. Go let them do it. And then they're gonna come back and they're gonna ask you for advice again. Hey, now they might pay more attention to your advice
Yeah.
when you already tell something, but you just let it go, and then they're gonna come back and they're gonna just ask you again, like, hey, do you think I'm doing the right thing, or should I do something else? So maybe it's just don't hold to them so much and let it make some mistakes, healthy mistakes, or something like that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know.
I absolutely love that. Let them learn through their mistakes.
Mistakes.
Yeah.
That's right. As long as they don't make detrimental mistakes,
Gotcha.
which is what I tell my
Right.
kids all the
Right.
time. Lifelong mistakes.
Right.
That's what I mean, healthy mistakes.
Right. And that's where us as parents come in to sort of safeguard them,
Yeah.
right? And even intervene when we see that they're going to make life-changing mistakes that's going to have consequences beyond their years.
Yeah.
But there are some lessons that they need to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And the protection that we offer sometimes to these kids, it prevents them from learning the mistakes.
Yeah.
Right.
At the times when they should learn the mistakes. And guess what? Adult years hit and they're faced with the same challenges and the lessons that they should have learned earlier. Now they're learning in an entirely different setting. And that sometimes they're not prepared
I
because
agree.
mommy and daddy's not there
Yeah.
to help them through those settings. Do you find that there are some lessons from raising children or raising your family that you have applied to your practice?
Definitely.
How so?
I think
How so?
mindset is the greatest factor, right? Because as a person, as an individual, as an employee, as a child, as a husband, you could always choose to see everything half empty or half full, right? Your mindset plays a big factor in everything. And selflessness is a big factor that we always have to imply into our everyday life and to people that are around us, because not everything is about us. Sometimes there's a bigger picture that you have to look out there, right? And so that's what I tell my kids, being selfless and being able to project the visions of others, perhaps at one point or another, to fulfill a certain goal or a greater good, if that makes sense. And that's something that I teach my employees and all of my kids at the same time. You can't sell what you don't believe in, right? That's something big. So regardless if you're a child in a relationship or a husband in a relationship or you're selling something in your business, you got to believe in the product and you got to believe in what each one of us is talking about for that greater good, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So it's like, okay, you have to learn at different stages of your life on how to achieve these things, right? Because if not, then you're only setting yourself back that much more, if that makes sense,
It does.
right?
It absolutely does. I think we talked briefly about this when we had our first meeting, or our meeting.
Right.
And I'm going to dive into that and just segue into this a little bit. So not all couples work well together, right? I have a bunch of doctor colleagues who tell me I can't have my wife work with me because it's a disaster. And I have some of the female, doctors was like, I would never have my husband work with me because, this is, it's we would ultimately end on separate paths because of work. But you guys have figured it out and working together.
Right.
Is it easy?
No, I think you got moments. For me, I think, for us actually, it's I think we love it. I mean, I'm gonna talk from my end. I don't know. Maybe we should say something different, right? But I love it. I think it's like, because now you got not only your wife but your partner, and you can hustle 24/7. Because we go home. Normally, different couples, maybe they go home. I know couples, they got rules and like, hey, you know what? When you get home, we don't talk about work. We're like hustling 24/7. We get home and we talk about work. Sunday's actually, funny things, the day that we work the most sometimes.
Right.
And I love that. I think I don't see any other way that we can do it, or I don't see any other partner that I would do this with. I think it's amazing. I would love that we always like thinking, and we always like thinking, and we always like figure it out, brainstorming, and I think I would change a thing. I mean, that's from my end. I don't know.
I can elaborate a little bit on that. And, a lot of people know my story here in Atlanta. And, I can attest to the fact that prior to, finding my partner now, I had a previous partner, both business as well. And we were just not in alignment. Okay. But the product of that was we only had 2 locations for 16 years. We weren't really aligned in our vision. We weren't really growing from that. When I met my current husband and my current partner, he owned his own business as well. And what drew me so close to him was, man, he was just such a nice guy, so amazing. And like you said, when it comes to vibes, it's like he just treated everybody so indifferently. And he was always there, so ready to serve whomever came in his path. And I said, wow, this guy's amazing, And, funny enough, we were training together at the gym.
Sneaky.
I know. We were training at the gym. We became
exactly what you were doing.
You knew what I was doing. Now looking back, we became really great friends. We were helping each other through those separating moments, which was a very tough moment in my life, where I became a single mom as well of 4 children and having to grow this practice all from one day to the next, which was quite scary. But when I met him, we became friends, and it was funny enough where we just started helping each other. I knew so many people being in the wellness industry that needed people for nutrition, for, working out, for everything. So I would send them clients his way and referred him to him. And same thing, he would find out people that needed, so he would help me out. And, that blossomed into such a lovely relationship where we actually became a little bit more intimate after that. And, I said, you know what, we work so well together. We are so aligned in our visions that, man, it's like we need to work together.
Right.
So we slowly transitioned into working together. And I'm a strong believer that I know my role in the company and as a wife, right? I know what my strong suits are. I know what my weaknesses are, but I feel like what my weaknesses are his strengths. So we kind of, he knows his things that he needs to do, and I know mine, but at the same time, we grow from each other because we don't limit ourselves. I know that's my weakness, but he helps me grow in that aspect. And I know what his weaknesses are, and I help him grow in that. So tomorrow, if one of us is missing, we both have it all completely, if that makes sense. So I appreciate that. And lo and behold, we've been together for 9 years. And after those 9 years is when the practice grew tremendously. We're now
Wow.
at 9 locations, hopefully expanding, thinking about going nationwide. And that's just a testament to say that the right partner,
The right alignment.
and the right alignment can move mountains.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think there's a book in all of this.
Right.
You need to write it.
I know. I need
You
to.
so need to write a
I
book.
need
This
to.
is
I
like the
need to.
story is going to be powerful. It's going to change lives, inspire a lot of young girls
Right.
and young couples to work
Right.
through things.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, disappointments, not disappointment, but our disagreements, they do come. Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
all the
you know,
time.
there's no sort of partnership or relationship that is without disagreement. And I
Right.
think, you know, when my wife and I discuss this, because there are times when we are, you know, at opposite sides of the room on a subject,
Yeah.
right? And what I had to come to grips with ultimately is what is her motive and what is my motive?
Yeah.
Is her motive to destroy or to intentionally inhibit or hurt? No, it's never. While her decision making might not be in sync with mine, when you look at the motives of what she was trying, everyone is trying to help.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Everyone in their best intention, right? Though the decisions may not align, they are really trying to help. So as opposed to focusing on the isolated decisions, we began to step back and look more at the intentions.
Right.
Yeah.
Once you begin to understand someone's intentions, then you can make better sense
Right.
as to the why behind the decision.
Yeah.
Once you understand that, then you can come together and align better, right? Knowing that, okay, I could see how that decision could have come about
Right.
and what was going through and what was the thought process behind it. That then helps you to now formulate a new plan collectively because you understand that you're both trying to move in the same direction,
Right.
though the discussion might have been different. So this is just so beautiful hearing this.
Yeah.
So you mentioned nationwide.
Nationwide.
Let's
yes.
talk about this for a second. What are the was so give me the 5-year plan that you guys are cooking up in the cauldron at
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
on Sundays when you guys are doing the most work, right?
Yeah. So far, we feel like we have a couple of more locations to open up here in Georgia, but we've talked about this a lot. We are currently moving in plans that with a lead generating company that we both own together to see how we can start kind of tapping into different locations
Different
and different
markets.
markets.
Yeah.
And once we have solidified exactly where we need to build these practices, then we'll go on and move in. But in the meantime, creating a relationship and networks with people in different states whom we could help grow in the long term. We have that vision that if we help someone grow in the long term when we're there, they're going to help us grow as well. So it's not always about yourself. It's about helping others and creating this network and these relationships that kind of foster this growth together. And so that's where we're at now. In the next 5 years, we definitely want to be in at least 6 more states.
Gotcha.
So that's where we're at right now.
That's impressive. That's extremely impressive. Are you guys drawing on any mentors, any sort of practices that may have developed this sort of model and expanded nationally? And seeing sort of, what gems do they impart? Are you guys drawing on that?
It's really hard, just as I tell my husband all the time, as a woman in this industry, I say, well, Oprah isn't answering my phone calls yet. It's really hard to get somebody high
To
up
mentor you, right?
to mentor me from a woman's perspective. I'm lucky to have my husband, and his growth mindset is like probably surpasses even mine at times. And, and I love that about him. However, in this industry, the only people that have been able to grow it, I think, would be someone like The Joint. But it's such a different realm. So I feel like we're going to be the first ones paving this path.
Gotcha.
Because I feel like a lot of people are affiliates of many other people, but not necessarily growing their own locations.
Gotcha.
So that makes it very specific and tight and very hard to find anybody that can mentor us through this. However, I think we found the correct formula that has been beneficial for us and this growth. And I think together we might have some trial and errors, and we might fail a couple of times, but I'm very confident that, we'll get it there. And eventually, hopefully, we'll be the ones mentoring other people.
You know what?
To
I
be
love
able
it.
to do the same thing.
Someone
So,
has to blaze that trail.
right.
Yeah.
So
And
we're
you
the
know what?
trailblazers.
Someone has to blaze that trail.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, I believe that if there's anyone that is more fit and capable to blaze that trail, it's you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Because
I
your
appreciate
path,
that.
Yeah.
your journey, your background, it's all of that which you have done and learned and gone through, the ups and the downs, the struggles.
Yes.
In each one of those, there were lessons.
Oh, yeah.
And those lessons that as you have extracted them along the way, they have made for better decision making each and every step of the way.
Right.
So embrace what's coming.
Yeah.
Muscle up.
Right.
Because know that there will be more challenges.
Yeah.
But I think you guys rightly said you have the formula down.
Oh, yeah.
And the formula is push through no matter what.
Oh, yes.
Because
Consistency.
because that's how you guys have gotten this far.
Right.
Now, I must say before we wrap up, I'm looking at you guys, and you guys are as fit as ever. Tell me the secret. What is your wellness routine?
I'll let you take over since you were the wellness guy here.
Wow. And that's something right now that we don't feel as much because we got, with all the kids and the offices. So I think have a structure. That's what is going to build everything. We got hard days, that we wake up in the morning and we had a plan and structure. And then, hey, we start getting phone calls instead of 8, 9 o'clock, we start getting phone calls at 6 or 7 o'clock. So that your day might change. But I think if you're consistent, if you can build a structure behind your day, the same way that you go to work every day is the same way that you gotta go to the gym, or you gotta go do whatever it is.
And nutrition as well.
Nutrition. That's a hard part for us right now because we do so many meetings and dinners and stuff, and I think that's why it sometimes can be harder.
Yeah.
Because we very healthy every day. We make healthy decisions. We don't drink. That's easy. But the dinner part, when you go to meetings and stuff, you go to these restaurants and they go to a steak.
So
restaurant.
tempting.
Yeah.
There's butter and everything.
Yes.
Grease and oil.
And they look at you weird.
Yeah.
You're like, please, plain. No, nothing. And they look at you like, wow.
Yeah.
Yes,
but anybody that knows us in this industry knows that all of our kids
Yes.
are in this wellness
Yes.
journey as well. All of them go to the gym. They're
Yes.
all muscled up.
Yes.
One of them actually competed
Yes,
as well. And you know that as well. He
never-
competed
yes,
as well.
yes.
I never competed, but I was very much into the gym. So that's just something that we do as a family, whether we're golfing, whether we're playing tennis, whether we're wakeboarding, whether we're surfing, whatever it is, we do it as a family.
It's a lifestyle.
And the funny thing is, I think us older people, we gotta keep it competitive with these kids, So
gotta
we're
let
like,
them
oh,
know.
you ain't gonna
You
surpass
gotta let
no,
them
no,
know,
no, no.
right?
Yeah.
So let me
You
put
know.
where we are right now.
Yes,
And
please.
It's a true story.
Please.
I'm not making this up.
Please.
We get upset, and we had a list of all the kids, girls and boys, whatever. They make a list. Hey, we're gonna do a competition. Who do you think is better for this? Make a list. 1, 2,
3.
3, 4. Who's number 1? We get upset.
When you got a number
I'm older, man. I get upset. It's like, oh,
I love
you're probably
this.
number 2, number 3.
Oh, my
What do you mean
goodness.
number 3. Let's do it.
Let's do
I
it,
was like,
right?
"Okay, let's do it.
There is something about that healthy competition that pushes
Oh, yeah.
them,
Right.
pushes everyone to strive. I tell my kids that when you stop striving for more, whatever more is, whether
Yeah.
it's in knowledge or in business or
Right.
growth or whatever, that's when we begin to die. You can
Right.
be
Yeah.
present, but not alive.
Right.
And I think that's something that is so scary to be walking around, but not alive.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. Yes.
I see you guys and I see life, I see energy, and I believe that that's what's so attractive about what you guys are doing.
Right.
Keep shining that light.
Thank you.
Keep blazing this trail. Keep setting the example of several things, whether it's female in business, couples
Yeah.
doing business together.
Right.
Prioritizing their wellness journey, their fitness journey, while still doing business. A lot of business owners and people who are successful are extremely out of shape and unhealthy,
Right.
Yeah.
because they focus on one area and not the other.
Yeah.
I think balance touches on every aspect of your life, whether it's your financial pursuits and your drive in making sure that you're doing all that you can to be as successful as possible, but physically being the best specimen that you can possibly be with the time that you have.
That's right.
And then mentally working on your mindset, mindful, guarding your mind, being mindful, and transferring these to the children, your the generations to come,
Right.
leaving that legacy behind. That's how we begin to implement change.
Right.
And I see you guys doing that at this time, but not just me, but it's also seen by the community.
Thank you.
awesome.
It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you guys on today.
Likewise. Thank you for having us in this show.
Thank you guys for sharing your beautiful story.
Thank
There's
you.
so much more.
So we're doing this every Sunday now?
Oh, you know what? No, because we've just scratched the surface. Because, with the 15 or 20 minutes that we have, we're just scratching the surface. But
Right.
but I'll tell you what, you guys will be on again. No, absolutely. Because, this is the intro.
Yeah.
In the intro, I typically don't dive too deep.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
I typically don't dive too deep in the intro. But you know what? Sometimes, when you're having conversations, people tend to identify with things that that make us not so perfect.
Yeah.
Right. That's
yeah,
true.
absolutely.
Things that
I like that.
humanize us a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And because that's reality, right? We all do our best, and we put forth the best. But there are times that are tough times.
Yeah.
And sometimes the tough times, they're so tough that most of us are uncomfortable discussing the
Right.
tough
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But these tough times are when we're at our most vulnerable.
That's right.
But believe it or not, they're the most realist times.
Yeah.
They're the most relatable times. And they're the times that have the power to change people's lives.
Yeah.
That is true.
I know that.
To be continued.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.